I've carried this secret for almost 20 years, and there isn't a single day when I don't think about it. Back when I was 17, I had a best friend named Daniel. We grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone else. Our families were close. We went to the same school, played on the same soccer team, and spent almost every weekend together. Daniel was the kind of person people trusted. Teachers liked him. Parents liked him. Even kids who barely knew him still respected him. He was calm, patient, and honestly, a lot more mature than the rest of us. I, on the other hand, was always trying to prove something. I don't know why. Maybe it was insecurity. Maybe it was just being a stupid teenager. But I constantly felt like I had to show people that I was fearless. One night during our senior year, Daniel and I snuck out after midnight. It wasn't unusual for us. We would drive around town, grab snacks from the only gas station still open, and talk about everything: school, girls, and what life might look like after graduation. That night, we ended up near the industrial area on the edge of town. There was an old warehouse there, empty for years. Teenagers sometimes went there to mess around, spray graffiti, or just explore. We parked nearby and walked over to it. I remember joking about how creepy it looked, like something from a horror movie. The windows were broken. The metal doors were rusted, and weeds had grown through the cracks in the pavement. Daniel looked at the building for a moment, then suggested we should probably just leave. But I had a stupid idea. Next to the building, there were stacks of old wooden pallets and piles of trash that had probably been sitting there for years. I pulled a lighter from my pocket and started messing around with a small pile of paper and cardboard. Daniel immediately told me to stop. "Dude, that's a terrible idea," he said. I laughed and told him to relax. I said I'd light it for just a second, then put it out. At first it seemed harmless. A small flame caught the paper, and we both stood there watching it burn. Then the fire spread to the wood. Within seconds, the flames were bigger than I expected. I panicked and tried to stomp it out, but it was already too late. The fire caught one of the pallets, then another. The flames started climbing higher, faster than either of us expected. Daniel grabbed my arm. "We need to go," he shouted. We ran back to the car. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the orange glow of the fire getting brighter behind us. At the time, I kept telling myself it would burn out, that someone would see it and call the fire department, that it wasn't as bad as it looked. But the next morning, the entire town was talking about it. The warehouse had burned down completely. It turned out the building wasn't as abandoned as we thought. A local company had recently bought it and planned to renovate it for storage. The damage was estimated at hundreds of thousands of dollars. The police started asking questions almost immediately. Someone had seen a car near the warehouse that night, and unfortunately, it matched Daniel's car. 2 days later, the police showed up at his house. I remember the moment he called me. His voice sounded shaky, but he was trying to stay calm. He said the police wanted to talk to him because someone reported seeing his car near the fire. My stomach dropped. That was the moment I could have told the truth. Instead, I said nothing. Daniel told the police that we had been driving around that night, but said we hadn't gone near the warehouse. Technically, it wasn't even a complete lie. We had parked down the road, but the investigation didn't stop. Security cameras from a nearby factory caught footage of his car driving past the area around the time the fire started. And slowly, the pressure started building. I remember Daniel coming over to my house one evening. He looked exhausted. He kept saying he didn't understand why this was happening. And the worst part, he still trusted me completely. He asked me if I thought he should get a lawyer. I told him that might make him look guilty. Even now, I can't believe I said that. A few weeks later, everything fell apart. Investigators found traces of gasoline on the burned pallets. They started treating the fire as arson. Eventually, Daniel was charged. His family hired a lawyer, but the evidence kept stacking up against him. His car had been in the area, and he couldn't provide a clear explanation why. I sat in the courtroom during part of the trial. I watched my best friend stand there, while people described him as reckless and irresponsible. I remember his mother crying. I remember his father sitting completely still, staring at the floor. And through all of it, I said nothing. Daniel eventually took a plea deal. His lawyer told him it was safer than risking a longer sentence if the case went to trial. He was given probation and a massive financial penalty. The charge followed him for years. It destroyed his plans. He had been accepted into a really good college program. But the conviction complicated everything, and eventually he decided not to go. After that, things between us slowly faded. At first, we still talked occasionally, but I could feel the distance growing. Daniel changed. The calm, confident person I grew up with became quieter, more withdrawn. About 5 years later, he moved to another state, and after that, we stopped talking completely. For a long time, I convinced myself that the truth didn't matter anymore, that bringing it up would only reopen old wounds. But the truth is, I was just afraid of what people would think, afraid of the consequences, afraid of finally admitting what I had done. Then last year, something happened that made everything come rushing back. I ran into Daniel's sister at a grocery store while visiting my hometown. We hadn't seen each other in years. At first, the conversation was polite, but awkward. We talked about work, family, and how the town had changed. Then she said something that completely shattered me. She told me Daniel struggled for years after the trial. Not just financially, but mentally. He felt like the whole town believed he was a criminal. She said the hardest part for him wasn't the punishment. It was the feeling that something about the whole situation never made sense. That comment has been echoing in my head ever since. Because he was right. It never made sense. And the reason is because I never told the truth. I don't know where Daniel is now. I don't know if he would even want to hear from me. But every single day, I think about picking up the phone and finally telling him everything. It wouldn't undo what happened. It wouldn't erase the damage. But maybe, just maybe, it would give him the one thing he never got: the truth.